Podcast.
Hello and welcome to PMC English. This is Aishi Farasi and welcome back to our series of podcasts. Today I have a very interesting topic and I know most of you go through this. That is disappointment. So we will clarify all our doubts and all our questions with Mr. Vyas today. Welcome to our show, sir. So the thing that I usually face is disappointment. Though every time we give our 100% or more than that at times, but at the end when the output doesn't come well, so we face this disappointment. So how do we deal with it?
So, first identify where do you feel disappointment, because it might feel like we are facing disappointment everywhere, but that is not usually true. It's only when we put a lot of effort we feel disappointment, right? So, can you identify the key areas where you feel a lot of disappointments?
Okay. And now if I take an example related to my work, if there's a certain program wherein I have put a lot of effort in that, and when the final output comes or the response from the audience comes and it is not that much that I have expected it to be, then that is where I feel disappointment.
When you are doing that work, are you putting the same amount of effort on it, or are you putting little extra amount of effort?
Little extra effort.
So, when you are putting that extra amount of effort, why?
Because I feel certain attachment to it, or I feel that I need to improve in this certain section and I want to grow more by putting in more efforts, by making it look more beautiful actually.
What if it is not? What does it mean to you?
I will not be that satisfied.
What kind of person are you if you don't put that effort?
When it comes to work, we need to give our 100%, right?
If someone doesn't give 100%, what kind of person are they?
I don't know how do I actually, put it in the right word. But that's not the right kind of person if you're not putting that 100% because the company is actually having a lot of expectations from you.
This is not just about the company that you are working in. It's about everybody in different workplaces that they face this. So, if imagine you are in any other corporate, IT or other pharmacy or wherever you are working, and how many people do you think will be putting their 100%, and how many people do you think they'll be doing just coasting around?
Yeah, there are many people, what matters to them is the salary that they get at the end of the day.
Right.
Yeah, so they're not bothered about the organization, they're just working for the salary purpose.
So, what kind of people are they?
If you want me to put it in the right word, I'm not getting that right word, but
It doesn't have to be right word. It is. I need the emotion behind it. The emotion that you'll use for when you see such people.
maybe they are not bothered about anything.
Yes, but how do you feel about them?
Reckless people.
Reckless. Good. That's as good as any other.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, just say it's okay to be reckless. It's okay to be reckless. Say it aloud.
It's okay to be reckless.
How do you feel?
It's okay to be reckless. Yeah.
In that particular, when you are working on that particular project, where you are putting more than 100%, which is causing a lot of disappointment, in that event, in that memory, use this statement. Then tell me, how do you feel?
But I have a thing over here is that.
No, try it. This is about feelings. It's not about actually doing something.
Okay.
It's about checking how you feel and how you are being.
Okay.
So you don't have to do this, but imagine that you are doing, then say it and see how it feels.
It's okay to be reckless. It's like, there is no burden of expectations or there is no burden of doing greater things. It's like lighter. I feel lighter that it's okay if it doesn't go well, then also it's fine. And if it goes well, then also it's fine.
Now, check. When would you do a better job? When you are feeling burdened or when you're feeling light?
When I feel lighter, of course.
So just because you just said it's okay to be reckless, will you be reckless?
No, not actually.
No. So it's not about being reckless. It's about lightening your burden. Then you will be able to perform better without getting attached to the result. So the reason here that you are disappointed is not because of amount of work you put in or the quality of the work that happened or the result itself, no matter what the result is. Just because it is wrong to be reckless and somewhere you cannot be 100% not reckless. Is it possible to be 100% not reckless?
Not really.
It's impossible. You made it impossible for you to not be disappointed.
Okay.
So you are creating disappointment by attaching value to recklessness. Once you said it's okay to be reckless, then that value was gone. So disappointment disappeared.
But why does it generally happen? If I can take a general example, there are students who study day and night, and at the end of the day, when they don't pass in that examination or they don't go through that examination, that is where they feel disappointed, and that disappointment is so.
First, we have to check whether it is students' disappointment or it's parents' disappointment or it's the environment's disappointment. So we assume that student is disappointed, but it might not be true all the time. In some cases, yes, it is true.
Yeah.
For some students, they have put a lot of hard work because of some reason they were not able to perform well enough. They are feeling disappointment. In many cases, it's the disappointments of others that gets to us. Okay, so we have to distinguish between, because solution for both of them is different.
Yes.
So let's assume that the student is actually disappointed by their own performance. It also happens,
Yes.
right? Then again, we have to check what is it that they are trying to be. Like you are trying to be not reckless,
Right.
thereby guaranteeing your disappointment. So what are they trying to be that is guaranteeing their disappointment? We need to find out. If we are disappointed once in a while, then nobody cares about it.
Yes.
Things happen, just people move on. But it's happening and again, and it's become a pattern. That's the real problem,
Yes.
right?
Right.
So that pattern means that they have set their being up for disappointment.
Okay.
That is the case where student is actually disappointed. In some cases, it's about other people disappointed. So there is a behavior in children called passive aggressive behavior.
Yes.
Why does it develop is when kids are small, they are actually powerless. They don't have enough power. Their parents are very strong physically. And everybody else bigger than them has their power. And at the ages of 2 to 5, when the kids are forming their own individuality, they want to assert their individuality. This is the period when kids usually want to be themselves, to show that they are different from the surroundings. So there is a power struggle that happens between parents and kid, or kid and teachers, and kid or elder kids. That is when if they perceive that someone has too much authority over them and they are not giving me freedom or choice to be myself,
Yes.
and they don't have power to change that, then this passive aggressive behavior starts forming. So very simple way of you'll see passive aggressive behavior is when parents or teachers are angry and they shout at the kids, they'll get scared. But once they're out of there, they'll make faces,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So when they make faces, what are they saying? What are they expressing?
They generally don't care about that actually,
No,
in
it's
a
not
way
about
also.
it's not about caring. It's that I'm angry with you for taking away my freedom, for taking away my choice. You didn't give me choice.
And generally they don't care also at times when they make faces. They are like in a fun way because they don't take it personally.
Even
things.
adults use this technique of using humor to get over some things.
So
Right?
it is that way.
It is that. There is anger inside. They are being funny about it because they don't have power, right? So whether we like it or not, there is anger inside. It might be small anger, it might be big anger. It depends upon the kid and environment they are in. And to that extent, the amount of the love they receive in compensation also matters. If there is a lot of love and little authority, even if it is strong sometimes, they are okay with it. But if the amount of love they feel is less and authority is more, then passive aggressive behavior becomes stronger and stronger as they grow up. So their way of punishing these strong people around them is what will make them disappointed. So if parents have high expectations on studies, kid feels that if I fail, parents will be punished, right?
They'll get punished.
Punished. So this is not something that kid plans and does. Kid doesn't even know that they are having passive aggressive behavior. It happens naturally inside them. So whenever an authority figure says something, they tend to rebel. Some rebel openly, some don't do it openly. Just because someone is rebellious in the open, they are rebellious kid, other kids are not, that is not true.
Okay.
So passive aggressive behavior has different forms. But the most thing is, it is self-damaging. So they damage themselves to punish the authority figures. So as they grow up, this tendency keeps on increasing. Even if the parents' influence is gone, any other authority figure coming into picture, sometimes, even if they become authority figure in their life, then they fail.
But at times this disappointment, it is so strong that it drains them and it actually takes them to a negative way. So how do people deal with such situation?
Now we understood what are different ways the disappointment actually is in kids or youth, or how the behavior looks like. Now, if we have to deal with it, first thing that we need to understand is nobody else can save a kid. See, usually parents think that if I do this for my kid, he'll get better. That might happen by giving good environment, maybe facilities or whatever they can provide with money if they have, to some extent, but behavior doesn't change by that. Behavior is set because of the energy relationship of emotions between parents and kid, or kid and the environment, not only parents but teachers and other kids around them, if there could be bullies or whatever, lot of things they face. So that is defining their behavior, and they also don't have control over it.
Yes.
So parents giving them something doesn't usually change the behavior. It may pacify them to a certain extent. That could be a coping mechanism. You are temporarily postponing that anger.
But it's still inside.
It's still inside. So only thing that really researchers in psychology found that acts against passive aggressive behavior is if parents change from authority to loving. And then also damage control is to the extent that they can recover, not completely. The kid has to take choice for their own life, and they have to choose to improve, and they have to learn to love themselves. Loving themselves for some people might be about caring for their basic things. Loving themselves might be like studying for themselves or finding a career for themselves. It is the individuality that needs to be nurtured there.
Right, absolutely.
Okay, so whatever it is for that kid, we have to identify that and help them create that sense of I can care for myself. I can be an individual, respected individual in the society. So that love is, that care needs to be given to that kid. Then slowly, and also the energy that they have built with their parents, that needs to be worked through. Once this is all done, then the person will be free of passive aggressive behaviors and such. And disappointment is all about, again, apart from passive aggressive behavior, which is unrelated to the other issues, once that is addressed, then if there is a disappointment, then we have to check what is that we are being, or what is that we don't want to be, in fact, because of which we are doing this thing. Then neutralize that energy. Then the burden goes down and suddenly disappointment disappears. So whatever we are saying, it's not okay to be reckless, simply say it's okay to be reckless, not that you will be reckless, just to reduce that energy.
Just to feel lighter.
Just to feel lighter. And when you feel lighter, you'll perform better.
So it's like every individual have to take their own charge.
Unless you take responsibility for your own life, you can't improve. If you don't take responsibility, then there is, like I said, family dramas happen. We'll be playing victim. Because of all these things, I failed, I am so disappointed, and they'll never focus on themselves, improving themselves to be able to study. Instead, they'll keep blaming parents and teachers and this and that and environment and everything. Or they'll be playing rescue. They'll try to say, I was helping this person, so I failed. They did better than me, so I am disappointed. So there will be a number of dramas we start playing when we don't take responsibility.
Like when we don't come up to the expected result, what we do is that we generally analyze like where we went wrong or what we did wrong or where did we waste our time or what are the factors that led to this result. So that adds up more to the disappointment. So according to you, is it right analyzing at that particular moment, or it's just like leave and move on?
Did it help you?
At times it does and at times it drains.
So whenever it is training, then it's time to focus on what you don't want to be and say it's okay to be that. Because you have too much burden. If you don't want to be something and you say it's okay to be that, then the burden is removed. Then you can actually perform better. Then all this analysis doesn't matter.
Okay.
Once you do this, once the burden is not there, you'll obviously see where things went wrong. You don't even need to analyze. It will be visible to you. The only reason we are not able to see where we are going wrong is because we don't want to be something and we are struggling with it so much. All our energy is going there. Yes. And in that struggle, if we start analyzing, you will only start justifying that struggle.
Yes, it's exactly actually the same way.
Right? So if we want to really improve, we have to check what we don't want to be. Being is more important than doing. Analyzing doings will not get you the answer. It's checking the being that will help you.
So this was actually one of the factors where I go through and I land up in such a situation where I drain all my energy analyzing things, that where did I go wrong or what made me land up to these situations. Now that you have told me that it's okay to be reckless, so I will carry forward this, and thank you for this.
So now to what extent do you feel that your disappointment will disappear?
To a greater extent, I can say that.
So if you have to give a percentage.
For now, I would get 80 because I have to still, analyze it and I have to actually put it in the right way.
So you stop analyzing
Yeah,
and
I
start
should.
being.
Yes, I should actually. Because that is one of the factors where I go wrong, because I analyze a lot of things. Instead of observing things, I analyze, and I think that is where I go wrong.
See, analysis is not bad. The problem is if you are not in the right state of being, all analysis is biased.
I actually justify.
Yes.
Yeah.
So instead of justification, if you go into being and correct that being, then automatically you will see what it is. You don't even need analysis half the time or 90% of the time.
Okay. Got it.
Because you don't need to justify anything now, you know what it is. You will do what is required.
I should actually start observing things and take things as they are.
Right.
Yeah.
The another aspect what increases disappointment in other people, like if you're disappointed in yourself, this is a process. Yes. But if you're disappointed by how other people are around you,
Yes.
what would you do then?
Just accept them as they are.
What does that mean?
It's okay. It's okay if they are in that particular way, or if they are not the way that we want them to
So
be.
do you know why people don't accept people as they are?
They have certain thing inside them.
What is that certain thing?
Expectations.
Yes. So we call it shoulds.
Okay.
What does should means is, mother is supposed to be like this, father is supposed to be like this, wife is supposed to be like this, husband is supposed to be like this is what a kid should do, son should do this for their family, daughter should be like this. Should.
Okay.
They don't care about who the other person actually is. They don't even know who they are, right? So instead of accepting people as they are, we have an image of what they should be that we have already created, and that person is not matching that image, so we reject them. Even if we are not saying we are rejecting them, we are rejecting them. And that energy is visible and the other person is offended and they are suffering.
Right.
So let go of the shoulds. So inside us, we had, like for you, it was about like we should not be reckless. That created disappointment. The same way, that should, once you remove and accept yourself for who you are, when you say it's okay to be reckless, you are actually saying, I accept myself. Similarly, when you put a should, then you are saying what they should not be. When you accept that it's okay for them to be that, then you are neutralizing that should. Once you neutralize it, you actually see the person for who they are. You can really be caring and loving. If we have shoulds, we cannot love the other person because we are loving that image of what that role should be.
Yes, actually.
We are in love with an image of what that person should be. We don't even know who the other person is. Even if you have lived all your life with them, you don't know because you are still living in your image. Okay?
Because that's how expectations keep building.
Building. That's how you keep building disappointment. But if you really see people for who they are, then things change. This is recently a business leader came to me and he had a lot of trouble with his team. Then we were discussing this same problem. And his team left him. And he was very disappointed. I built them, I did so much for them. But when we analyzed, we found that, did you really do it for them or did you do it for yourself? Didn't I do it for them? Check. Did you ask them what they want? Or was it your expectation of how that person should be in that role? Yeah, I never asked them. I thought they knew this is how they are supposed to be, right?
Got it.
Right? So, supposed to be means they should. He has a should of how that person should behave and act in the team. So, whose team is it?
It's its own team.
So then he realized, oh, my leadership style was authoritative, like a dictatorship. I never realized. So this must only work in the military or such things. Real life, it doesn't work because he has seen the failure. He's just saying, so it doesn't even work in military or a dictatorship also. Why do you say that? The moment you say it is my shoulds that define how teams should be, and we don't even know who teammates really are, will you be able to trust them? Because the teammates don't own, because it's your idea.
Yes.
So it is your team. No, teammates don't feel that it is their team.
Yes.
If it is not their team, they are free to leave any moment.
Yes.
So there is no bonding, there is no trust. So do you think a dictator can survive without people who they can trust?
Until and unless you accept them the way they are or you understand them, then only I think that the leadership would come out.
Exactly. So even in the military, they think that it is dictatorship. No, it is not. That military leadership is not that. In fact, in military leadership, if you have to have a team and you have to go into a war with your team, you have to know them at an intimate level. You are forced to know them. Because if you are part of that small team of 20 people, you should know each and everyone's capabilities. Everyone should know them. Because you know how will they perform under stress on the field. So what you should do, what you can't do. The boundaries, and you should push the boundaries together. And that part of team building, you cannot ignore the person for who he or she is and say the person should be like this.
Right.
Can you say that person should be like this when your life is depending on it? No. If your life is depending, if you still hold on to that shirts, you'll get shot from behind, not from the front.
Yes, that's there.
Right? So in fact, people go into military organizations just to learn that leadership because their life depends upon creating that bond, accepting people who they are. So that was an interesting discussion I wanted to share.
Yeah, that was actually, it made me help, understand it better, that how disappointment leads and how to deal with them. So thank you so much for that wisdom, and I hope that all the audience watching this, the ones who go through this disappointment, all their disappointments will get clear, and they will also learn this aspect of it's okay to be reckless. So thank you so much for joining in this episode. So we were in conversation with Mr. Vedavyas, and I hope that this topic would help you clear all your disappointments. So stay tuned to PMC English for more updates. This is Ayushi Farasi signing off.